With over 560,000 animated keyframes and 13,480 frames of animation, Spider-Man Ultimate 7 is the longest and most ambitious computer animation I have created so far. Millions of views later, it is time to take a look at how it was made. From modeling to rendering, let's dive into the digital world of computer animation. Spider-Man and Venom were the first character models and rigs I created back in 2013, while Carnage was created in 2015. I have updated all the character rigs for this animation. A fight between Venom, Spider-Man, and Carnage has never been done in computer animated form until now. The only references I had for a fight between the three of them were the comics and the Amazing Spider-Man animated show. The comics are filled with amazing panels by some of the most talented artists that drew the characters back in the 90s. They gave me a great sense of how Carnage fights and how he would move in a fight, as well as his various abilities. While animating, my computer could never handle more than 2 characters being animated at once, so I had to animate one character while the other 2 were composed of NURBS curves, and then switch on the polygons of one of them and switch them off of the other. I had to do the same thing for the robot battle section, in which Spider-Man and Venom are originally punching several stand-ins. Later, I animated the robots reacting to the hits. I used both FK and IK rigs for all the characters, switching nearly constantly between the different rigs every time the characters would jump, swing, kick, or get knocked off the ground. If you'd like to see more in-depth analysis of the fight, including the martial arts styles that the different characters use, check out my brother's fight scene breakdown. He covers all sorts of martial arts styles from many other superheroes too. At the end of Spider-Man Ultimate 7, Spider-Man and Venom go their separate ways. I wanted to show a clear contrast between Venom's web swinging and Spider-Man's web swinging. Venom is a forceful and heavy pendulum, while Spider-Man is a more graceful and stylish web slinger. Ever since the first Spider-Man Ultimate, his costume has always been inspired by the classic Spider-Man trilogy from the 2000s. The colors of his costume have changed with each installment, usually with different shades of red and blue. The spider logo on his back is my original design, and I modified the size and shape of his eyes. For this last installment, I decided to make the texture of his costume stand out. I gave his shader a property that normally makes materials conductive. His eyes are highly reflective this time around too. Moreover, the webs on his costume also have an extra level of sheen. I based Spider-Man's character mostly on the animated show from the 90s, as well as his portrayal in earlier comics. For the 7th installment, I wanted to double down on the fact that Spider-Man is extremely intelligent and can construct devices for battle and plan ahead. He is also willing to partner up with Venom for the greater good. Venom is the combination of Eddie Brock and the symbiote that originally bonded with Peter Parker. Ever since the turn of the century, Venom has been portrayed as a monstrous Hulk-like creature that is rarely proportioned and usually not humanoid looking at all. He uses black tentacles and has no webbing. I've never liked this interpretation of Venom and prefer the classic 90s one. Eddie Brock has the strength of an Olympic weightlifter with an estimated height of 6'3" and a weight of 260 pounds. When I modeled Venom, I made sure to base him not only on the comics but also on the physique of an Olympic weightlifter. Venom always had an extraordinarily strong humanoid form. He also frequently used webbing, and this webbing was not black but gray. He usually stood upright and was not hunched over like a gorilla. His symbiote could extend itself but just barely. He in no way could manipulate his symbiote to the extent that Carnage could. This time around, I gave Venom a skin-like texture and shader that allows his symbiote to reflect and shine in a more organic way. Spider-Man and Venom had to work together often in the comics, and this tenuous alliance usually ended up with some hilarious banter between the two. In Spider-Man Ultimate 7, I recreated that banter and gave Spider-Man and Venom a chance to interact and work together before facing Carnage. With Carnage, his visual design is very similar to his inner character, which is complete insanity and chaos. Using the split polygon tool, I carved out every black indentation you see, and I even added a spider symbol on him. It is very subtle, but you can see it on the main body. Since both Spider-Man and Carnage were going to be on screen at the same time, I had to pick a specific red for each character that would look different enough from the other. Carnage always has his tentacles moving around. He furthermore uses them as weapons to launch Venom, launch objects, or even launch Spider-Man. They are also used to cling off the crane here, and they raise Carnage off the ground multiple times throughout the fight. After reading several of Carnage's classic appearances in the comics, I was able to adapt his character for the animation. The most important aspect to get right is differentiating Carnage from Venom, not only in their philosophical and moral outlooks, but also in the way they carry themselves. Venom, for example, is usually upright, wearing his pride in everything he does, while Carnage is usually hunched over somewhat, moving erratically. Carnage is also very sadistic and loves to torture his victims. Carnage stabs Venom multiple times throughout the animation, and manages to stab Spider-Man with one of his projectiles as well. He even dislocates Venom's elbow here. Spider-Man Ultimate has seen many different environments, and Ultimate 7 is no exception. The city took ages to construct. There are individual rooftops, buildings, cars, trash cans, mailboxes, street lights, traffic lights, windows, and several buildings from New York City. The ocean is also visible. Oscorp is filled with details and Easter eggs. You will see Marcus's sword from Soul Hunters. There's also the door from Metroid Prime, which is one of my favorite video games, and several others if you look closely. The background office supplies and laboratory supplies were created by my brother, who is now learning Maya and 3D animation. The construction site was of course seen in Spider-Man Ultimate 6, but as you can see during the day when Venom and Spider-Man confront Carnage, it has changed. While Spider-Man and Venom were collecting the device, Carnage was testing his abilities on the environment around him, which is why most everything you see is destroyed or knocked down. Even the gigantic cranes are toppled over. The warehouse received several texture upgrades and a new lighting scheme, which made for a perfect background to Venom and Spider-Man's conversation. The bell tower also looks different with the sun pouring in, giving it a more tranquil atmosphere than it had in Spider-Man Ultimate 4. The bell tower was also the first environment I ever built in CGI. Not only was it nostalgic to revisit for the characters, but also for me when I opened the project file. With characters such as these duking it out, there's bound to be some collateral damage. For all the destruction, I used a simulation system within Maya known as Bullet. By manipulating properties within the physics system such as gravity, density, mass, etc., you can achieve the desired destruction. In many cases, it took a lot of trial and error to get the collisions right. When Carnage envelops Venom's hand, it took a combination of Maya's end cloth and end particles to pull it off.
Damn it, Parker! Do it!
My brother has been voicing Venom since Spider-Man Ultimate 4. The inspiration for his voice came from the 90s animated series of the Symbiote Saga. I wanted a voice that would sound as if Eddie Brock and the symbiote were both talking at the same time.
How nostalgic. This is where we first punched you.
If we're careful, we can be in and out of here without tripping any alarms.
I have been voicing Spider-Man since the third installment. Unlike all the other voices that I have done, Spider-Man is the one that most closely resembles my normal voice. Carnage, on the other hand, was a difficult voice for me to create.
You were able to take the sound. What? What do you have that I don't?
I wanted a blend of maniacal and diabolical that would also contrast with Venom's voice. One of the biggest leaps between Spider-Man Ultimate 6 and 7 is the level of realism. This was achieved by a combination of new lighting and texturing techniques that were not available to me when the previous installments came out. Since the death of Mental Ray, a renderer that was used for some of the best movies back in the 2000s, I had to look for a new renderer to use. Maya came prepackaged with Arnold, so I gave it a try with Spider-Man Ultimate Dimensions 2. After running into all sorts of problems with the renderer, I took a look at another one called V-Ray and decided to use it instead for 7. The Venom vs. Carnage fight at the start was probably the most challenging part of the animation to light, mainly because it is an exterior being lit with interior methods. It had a wide open space and hardly any objects for the lights to bounce back from. Finding where to place any artificial light sources was a challenge. Thankfully, cranes have several lights on them, so when Venom and Carnage jump on the crane, there are some lights there. The construction site floor is a multi-layered shader that combines several different textures. Jumping over to Oscorp, the lighting was also a challenge because we are dealing with a lab that is supposedly closed for the night, So I created these light chambers that secure some of the prototypes that Oscorp is working on, as well as the giant Oscorp letters. Even the robot's cables contribute a bit of lighting from their glowing blue wires. The final confrontation back at the construction site during the day had to have a specific atmosphere. A cloudy day worked for the fight and really helped sell the mood. The clouds in the background are coming from a real IBL picture taken with a 360-degree panoramic view. The city used the same real picture for both the cloudy and sunset scenes. The city buildings were also set with accurate IOR settings, so that the windows reflect realistically. I originally wrote Spider-Man Ultimate 7 back in 2015, and the fight between Venom and Carnage was going to take place at the end of Spider-Man Ultimate 6, but I decided to save it for the final installment. After writing it, I set it aside and I worked on Star Wars: The Return of Darth Vader, Goku vs. Superman, my feature-length film called Soul Hunters, and Spider-Man Ultimate Dimensions 1 and 2. I did finally start animating Spider-Man Ultimate 7 on October of 2018 and finished it by September of 2019. Animating was finished at the start of May. It then took 3 weeks to animate the tentacles and 3.5 months for lighting, texturing, environment creation, as well as rendering, sound effects, and editing. Therefore, it took 11 months, or 1,595 hours of my life for 10 minutes of entertainment. Brian Grider has composed the music for all the Spider-Man Ultimate entries since 4. All the music is original and performed by him. With Spider-Man Ultimate 7, he came up with an incredible theme for the final battle between Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage, as well as a background score for the most dramatic moments of the fight. At 24 frames per second, Spider-Man Ultimate 7 comes in at a total of 13,480 frames. Most of the animation was rendered using PixelPlow's render farm, but my computer and my brother's did render around 1,500 of those frames. It was a delicate balance between quality and render time, as I tried to keep each frame at an average of 4 to 5 minutes to render. Studios usually have their own render farms consisting of thousands upon thousands of computers that render out their projects. Do you have any questions about Spider-Man Ultimate 7? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to see what happens after Spider-Man Ultimate 7, check out Spider-Man Ultimate Dimensions and Spider-Man Symbiote Echoes. If you'd like to see more behind the scenes, check out the making of Spider-Man Ultimate 5.